joining us. Wanted, this as we dive into each section of our engine. The first one here is customer insight, and so we're going to go through some slides, and I'm probably going to pause and get everybody to think about some things and share. So hopefully your brain's not too worn out by the end of this. But this is the part when we start talking about customer insight and data that a lot of people don't. They think of it as like, oh, I don't really want to talk about this piece, but it's so important when you think about your business or whatever you're trying to do, trying to make decisions based on data. Now, yes, there are sometimes we have to make a gut decision and go with our gut, but obviously we want to make sure we're collecting the data. What data are we collecting? How do we use it? And also, who are we trying to sell to and market to, right? So whatever we're doing in our life, what are we trying to use insight for? So we're going to jump through that again, but as we talk, just kind of read, it's been a couple weeks since we got together. So just show the engine again. Again, customer insights going to be the focus tonight, but go through operational excellence, personalized services, memorable moments, and leadership team over the next, 5 or 6 weeks. So as we jump into this, again, raving fans, we want them to buy more and more often, pay full price, and tell others to buy from you. Just kind of wanted to hit a couple things just to kind of refresh everybody. Oh yeah, what we're talking about tonight and dive into that. So I know, Leanne, I'm going to say this, but you've got the chat, right? Because I can't see it. Okay, all right.
Got the chat.
I was like, I can't see it. But so if you have any comments, questions, throw them in there, or like I said, like we did last time, speak up and talk. I know Rodney will call on you if you don't. So
you're right, I will call on you.
But as we get into customer insight, so let's talk about it a little bit. What is customer insight? And I want you to think. So take a minute here and write down, if you have your top 10 or top 5 clients, who your customers, your clients, rate them. How well do you think you know them? 1 being the worst, like I don't know them at all, or 5 being the best, like I know all my clients really well. So just take like 30 seconds real quick and write down, just think high level, who they all might be and rate them. So you should do it too, Leanne, and let me know later.
So we rate them 1 to 5, right?
Yeah. So
not 0 to 5.
I mean, if you got a 0, let's talk. So.
Well, 5 being the best, correct?
5 being the best.
No, I do have a 0 though. Really, I mean, I probably want to expound on it when we get into it.
All right. So does anybody want to share before we dive into it? If they have a 1 or a 5, and you don't have to say who your client is, just say, hey, this is what I know about them.
So I'll start off, Matt. So I got 0, and 0 meaning Microsoft. I don't mind saying the client name because they're a client in a partnership company, but we really don't know them. That's the struggle. You don't know them, pretty much all. We know what they do and everything else, but it's so hard to navigate Microsoft in every facet of their environment, because they got a different culture, a different environment, right? And then I'll probably say one other client of ours and partner of ours is Apple. It's because they won't divulge certain things. So you can't do certain things. You can't talk about what you do at Apple. So those are my 2 major concerns right there.
No, and those are tough ones, because probably the person that we face this challenge with a lot of clients, Ron, is the person that you're probably dealing with, right, might change every 90 days and it's a different person, or people are rotating, or like you said, they just don't give you the information. They just say, hey, this is a dummy email address, but we'll get back to you, right? And that's the tough piece here. So
yeah, even when it comes down to your payout, we probably, and Tanya can attest it, we probably went through 6 different layers to even get paid, and it was still on 120-day, payout. So
and that's Well, it's interesting because that's what we're going to talk about is how do you identify the right customer profile and setting it up? Do you want clients that are prepaid or do you want clients that are net 30 or do you know, are you going to have some clients that are going to be 120 days out, right? So
Yeah, but that's gonna be a difficult conversation because there's so many that say they're gonna pay in 30 days. And I got another, something to say about that, but they say they pay in 30, but they really not gonna pay you 90 to 120, right? And if you get the money within that 30-day cycle, you got to give up a percent of the money that you already earned. So that's a problem.
yeah, a lot of them, the bigger, like they do a lot will do like 2% net 10. So if they pay within 10 days, they take
There you
2%
go.
off,
There you
things like
go.
that. So
Right. Correct.
yeah. And it is. That's
I didn't want to be difficult, man, but I might as well
no.
start.
Hey man, you got to have money, right? We got to think about how do clients pay us. So
Yeah. Yeah.
those are two. Who else?
My business is it's such a commodity, and you have to so it's hard to head down the value stream with it, and that's so it's hard to really get to know exactly what they're after. Plus, Matt, they do exactly what you say. One day you're calling on one person, the next day you're calling on another, so you build all this traction, and the next thing you know, you got to rebuild it again. But I actually built a value map that showed how we head down our services to try to build a little bit more stickiness with our customers and understand where they're at. And very rarely did we pierce that to where we got involved in their budgeting process. I did that with Sorrento and with Coca-Cola and some of their fountain programs. But being in transportation logistics, they tend to try to commoditize you into just very basic services. And if they scorecard you, and based on 3 metrics, that's it. That's all you get. So I rated mine mostly around 1 and 3 because I really don't know where they're at unless I can really get in the door with them.
Yeah, that's another tough one. But I did write down one thing. Our next session, when we talk about operations, we'll get into like customer journey and value stream mapping. So I think I'm going to love to hear that part on our next session too, is like, where do you meet your client and the journey, right? And how do you hit them and get to meet them? So,
right.
Anybody else want to share? But it's good. There's a lot of barriers as we find out of trying to get to know somebody. Once you finally do, like you said, they probably switch. So is anybody on the chat, Leanne? I didn't.
Not right now. I've had a couple of people, but
Okay.
nothing outstanding.
Well, in your mind, just think about what we go through. We'll keep going here. Is just what is data versus insight, right? So data is the raw information that we're gathering. What information are we gathering, and what questions are we? What are we asking, right? So as we talk about data and insight, quantitative versus qualitative. So as we put in here, insight is interpreting, analyzing, and finding patterns or trends within the data. And this is really, I always love to ask this question because it's always like, all right, we collect a lot of data, but who studies it? Who examines what are we actually collecting? Are we asking the right questions? And what is it giving us? I met a gentleman, where was I? Over in Alabama, and he's on a board. And I said, hey, he's like, what information do you guys collect? And he's like, I don't know. I sit in board meetings and like 90 out of the 100 slides that we look at don't mean anything to me. And I'm like, well, that's probably data versus really insight, right? So it's just data to present the numbers versus truly giving somebody that they can take and understand what is it and how do we do that? And how do we come actionable, like it says, actionable knowledge and deep understanding about our customers. And so again, knowing what data, what are we collecting and turning it into insight into points where we can make decisions. Sometimes good, and sometimes, we think we're right and miss. But as we go forward here, getting kind of thing, does anybody's data look like this? I always joke and like to look at faces. It's like, all right, when you look at your Excel spreadsheets or anything, do you look like data, the big Lego set, or can you actually explain the story? Most of the times I feel like I'm in the middle of arranged and presented visually somewhere in there. I'm not quite yet to the house, but I'm getting close. So Again, just kind of giving you some ideas and mindset of setting the tone of what we're getting into, because the next couple slides as we talk about customer profiling is how do we create the profile to ask the right questions, and what do we get into? So again, what are we collecting, how do we analyze it, and what do we do? So Dave, I got a question. Do you survey any of your top clients and collect any data? What do you do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We would survey them. We'd ask for, the top 25, especially in terms of volume. We do some pretty extensive surveys with them.
And what are some of the questions?
Oh my goodness. You ask
Maybe notice it was a test.
you ask the same question like 5 times, right? Just I'm trying to think of the questions. Are you, from satisfaction to value-added services to very specific things such as the budgeting process. Our intention was to make sure that we made the person we were calling on successful. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, their goals and objectives were in line with their, we wanted to make them successful. Good. So, there was just a whole bunch of questions, Matt, that just, again, it's like you asked the same one 5 times.
So we'll get into that too at the end here. Is if you're asking the same question 5 times in a row.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, I like it. Is it the wording, right? Are we asking the right? When I say what questions, usually if we ask the question based on the customer's experience to where it's about them and not how are we doing, but how did we help you solve any issues? They tend to answer more and they give you better feedback than if you just make the question about yourself. So as we talk about some of the questions, we got to think about what are we asking and our verbiage and what do we want, right? So I saw you shake your head, so you probably, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it gets back down to, we talked about the holistic tributary of satisfaction is not just the service, but it's the complete, from the initial interaction to the end result where you're getting paid and compensated for the service. So we looked at it from not just the service itself, but how do we get them to us? How do we interact with them, from a technology perspective? And then how do we bill them accurately and get paid accurately? And that was, to us, the full service, not just this piece.
Right.
Here.
Yeah, and that's really in the journey. The data hopefully is what you collect along the way to help you make better decisions, improve new products, things like that. So, like you said, the feedback at the end is usually where most people try to get it versus how do we get it in between the project or journey, right? So, so as we get into this, we're gonna start talking about the customer profile, right? It's more than just a demographics and what do we set up in our customer profile. So we like to use this in our presentation, and it's just kind of a fun game. So I'm thinking of anybody, you can speak up at any time. So person's from England, lives in a castle, age 65 to 75, and is married, but also has 2 kids. So here's the data. Who do you think the data represents? Anybody? You can't guess, Leanne.
I'm not. I'm keeping quiet.
All right.
No one in the chat either.
No one? All right. Anybody?
Nope.
England, married, 65, 75, and lives in a castle. Who are we thinking of?
Somewhere in Scotland,
the family's always in the news.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the
king.
family. Yeah, right.
The king. What's his name? I mean, I don't follow royalty, but I got to assume that's
Prince William.
Prince William. Yeah.
Lauren said Prince William. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Dion said it too. I saw Dion's chat.
Yes.
Also.
Yeah. So the data here, right? If you're just looking at the raw data, this is what you would think it is, right? So this is who we assumed based on the data. And this is what we get into is like, how do you dive into this first? But really who we were talking about was Ozzy.
Oh, Ozzy.
Right? But on paper, They look
Yeah.
exactly the same, right? And that's what we got to think about our clients and understanding data and insight is how do we truly understand when you have somebody on your team or you yourself see things that are identical, and how do we truly understand who that is and who it's about? So she's seen this a couple of times. That's why she can't guess, because it's like, I knew she knew the answer. So
That's
but as we get into this, who's your ideal customer profile? Right? So we're going to talk about who is your ideal customer profile. So Dave, just picking on you, who do you have an ideal customer profile of saying these are the clients that we want to go after?
Yeah, we do. I mean, when it comes to value services, we know exactly what type of manufacturer we want to go after. When it comes to commodity, we know what manufacturer we want to go after.
So there's two market segments. So that's a good start, good segue. So I'll try to go down. I keep picking on you because your face is at the top of the screen. So I gotta scroll down so I can holler at somebody else. So
Please do.
All right. So as we get into this, right, and we talk about is again collecting the data, but understand who we want to try to sell to, and that's the real purpose of the engine, is trying to create the ideal customer profile, right? So it gets the most value out of our product. Who is it? Are they highly engaged, easy to sell, and easy to work with, and refers us to others? We kind of touched based on this in the original or the last time we met, but we want our customers to be engaged with us and easy to work with, because I know we can all raise our hand. We have had tough clients before that we've dealt with that we were like, man, I wish I probably would have never opened them as an account. But sometimes it happens. Sometimes you need revenue in your business, and sometimes you have to go over those clients. So as we go through this and trying to define and determine, what's good and bad for our business, this is what we hit. So we focus on the bullseye of our ideal customer profile. And then as we come out, we say, all right, they're not ideal, but I don't mind doing business with them. And then there's the ones that we don't, that hey, they are a client, but we don't tend to like doing them. So Carolyn, Lauren, or Victoria, can I pick on one of you? Do you guys have somebody that you work with that you might say that's on the outside of this circle? You don't have to say who it is, but I'm just curious.
They are very quiet.
All right.
Hello, this is Carolyn. I'm sorry, I'm still kind of moving around, but as it pertains to my clientele, it's real estate related.
Okay.
So I don't think we really fit into this particular scenario, but I do have clients that aren't qualified. So I'm just going to listen for your, just to hear what you have to say.
So I am going to play devil's advocate because it's actually the real estate is perfect for this.
And that's what I was going to ask about that too.
But let me go.
Go
I'll
ahead,
go
Dion.
to the next slide, and that will give you some insight on how does this pertain to the real estate market, right? So how do we define it? So again, when you set up real estate, think about when you set up your business, are you trying to go after everybody, or are you staying in a certain market, right? Everybody wants to sell the $1.5–2 million homes, sure, but where is the market and what clients do you want to go after? So anytime you're setting up an ideal customer profile, who you want to go after, you kind of want to establish a hypothesis. All right, this is who I envision going after. Then test it and say, all right, you know what? I need to make adjustments because that's not realistic, right? So as we think about when we get to the next slide here, what we need to try to focus on, we set up who we think we should go after, test it. Do you get any clients in that range? And then make adjustments. So think about this. So here's kind of the basis of what we're going to spend like 5 minutes on here is how do you set up your ideal customer profile, right? So Carolyn, I'm going to pick on you because, I appreciate you speaking up and now you and I get to kind of interact on this, but in the real estate market, right? Who are you going to go after? Do you want to go after a 22-year-old, married couple Or would you rather hit someone between the 30s and 50s looking, that has maybe some equity? Maybe they sold a home and are transferring, but these are the things that you need to start asking yourself and think about. What is your ideal client? Where are they located? Where are they trying to go? What's their income? If they tell you that, I mean, obviously you can find that out after you, but who they are, their age, things like that. This gets into a lot of different businesses. So Carolyn, I'm gonna pick on you just because I just did box number 1. Does this start to make sense for the real estate market?
Well, I would go after the 30 to 50 range. Nothing against the younger range. It's just because I want to work with seasoned buyers because of our market here in Charlotte is very competitive.
Yeah.
And, a lot of them don't have the discretionary income set aside to play to win, because basically what it comes down to in this market is high due diligence, and that's money that they don't get back in the event that they default.
Yeah. I mean, you put all that work into it, right? And then something doesn't happen. And Charlotte is booming. Well, it was. I don't know where it is today, but I know this past year, 2 years, Charlotte's been really growing. So now we understand. And Carolyn, you and I are gonna work on this. Now we're working on this. So, and nothing. I'm gonna pick on myself a little bit, coming from being born and raised in Kansas. Would you deal with somebody that's selling from Kansas and moving to Charlotte, or selling in New York and moving to Charlotte?
Actually, what I would do is work as a referral. So
Okay.
typically, yes. So I would get with an agent in both of those particular states, and I would do a referral to where I still am a part of it, but kind of like a ghost, if you will. I make sure that my clients are being taken care of by the new clients that I hand them over to in those particular areas, and let those professionals in that market take care of my clients. And sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, Carolyn, this is what they're saying we should do. We should negotiate at this or that, or whatever that negotiation strategy is." And that agent works closely with me because that's what I put in my referral. So um as far as making more money, it would be the New York market, of course.
Okay. I'm glad you said that, because I was hoping that's where it would go.
Yeah, I think Dion has something to say too, Matt.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Dion texted back.
Sorry, go ahead, Dion.
Oh, I was chatting with Leanne in the chat box, so I got my answer. But it was kind of the same thing with Carolyn. I'm a real estate agent in Dallas, Texas. And I would, I guess, play devil's advocate to that, because I actually built my business plan off of customer profiles. So figuring out what type of people I wanted to target, and then the people outside of that profile, let's say, because I am in my 30s, so targeting the people younger than me, even if they're not in my profile, I can still target them by educating them, to letting them know the process to get them into my kind of customer profile. And the same thing with the people outside, like on both ranges. It kind of helps me figure out what my weakness is and how I can still convert those people into my profile eventually. So that's kind of how I envision and kind of work through that.
Dean, I love it, because the thing, remember, there's the ideal customer profile is your ideal customer profile, right? Like, so what works for you is different than Carolyn, and it would be totally different than me getting into real estate, right? So we all know, but you've set the standards of like, all right, this is who I'm going to try to go to. But it sounds like, Dion, if I understood you, if we go back to that original graph with the bullet, with the bullseye, your mid-range, but you say, you know what, Matt, my 20s, I'm okay with them being in that second ring. They're not out in the third ring. They're in that second ring. Like, I'm okay with dealing with them. Right.
Right.
And again, that's okay. At least, so Dion, now that I've got you, so you said you love dealing with in the 30s. Is there, thinking about your ideal, who you want to work with, is there a client that you say, hey, Matt, anywhere between 2,000, 3,000 square feet, 4-bedroom, 3 baths, do you say like, I try to go after any home, or do you try to, because Carolyn brought up a good point in his a couple slides later is you can have more than one customer profile.
Mhm.
She had one for, you know, the 30 to 50 range, but she also said, hey, I have a customer profile for referral business too, right?
Right.
As long as you've determined the customer insight of like who you want to go after, it's more of that rifle approach than instead of just trying to go after everybody. But I'll be quiet for a second and let you kind of chime in on that.
Yeah, so it is kind of like that. It's broken down, I would say, into like quote unquote departments. So you have like your main focus of people you're wanting to target, but then you might get an investor. So you have a profile set up for those types of people or other business professionals. Referrals are something that I would work on, but a lot of people are just moving to Dallas versus moving out that I've been catching. So that would be something, but it's not on, I guess I would say, the top one as Carolyn would use hers. Mine would, I guess, another profile I would incorporate would be the range of where I would go for that person. So depending on, and it also depends on the price of the home too, and how interested they are in the property. A lot of those things will kind of tie into, because if it's kind of taking me 2 hours to get to that location, I'm not too sure if that's going to be the customer that's set in my profile that I'd want to kind of target. So that's kind of how you can also break it down, I think.
I mean, no, that's part of it, right? That's what I have here are just some ideas to think about, right? Is, you know, your customers' values, preferences, what do they like, purchasing habits, right? What have they purchased homes before? I love the one in behavior. How do they like to communicate, right? So, I mean, you said it perfectly. It could be within, hey, I only go within the 60-mile radius of my home because I know once I get outside of that range that it's way outside the element of where I want to be focused. So it's funny what you and Carolyn are mentioning is a lot of businesses don't have profiles of what they understand of what they want to do. They just say, this is my product. This is what I want to sell. I don't know what problem I'm solving, but I'm going to try to sell this product versus look in the real estate market, you're solving something for your client, right? They might be transferring, moving, first home, who knows, right? But they've got something that's coming up and they're looking for you to be the expert. And that's where what problems do you like to solve in the real estate market, right? So like Carolyn, what like are a lot of yours transferring in, or is that what it is, or just people moving within Charlotte? Can I ask that question?
Sure. So because I am a veteran, I work with a lot of vets from Fayetteville to Charlotte. So it's a 2-hour
Yeah.
drive. And because I have family in Fayetteville, it's easy for me to work outside of Fayetteville, from Fayetteville to Charlotte. So I will drive that because I have a place that I can, stay for days. But when it comes to networking outside of the Carolinas, I typically have relationships with other realtors that we network because they may have clients that's transitioning into Charlotte or Fayetteville, and then they'll refer their business to me, and then I refer my business to them. But either way it goes, if I have a client that's like, Carolyn, I trust you, I want to work with you, or I want to work with whomever you refer to me, that's why I refer business out. It's just a rapport that I have built up because agents work with agents that they trust when it's in another city. Because when you're giving your clients to them or handing them over, you have to trust that that agent is still going to share that commission or that, that transaction with you.
Yeah, I mean, it more than commission, you hope they do a really good job, right? Because you're referring. So, but it's interesting. Can I ask a question too? Because you said, hey, I'm a veteran, and I'm also curious. Is there an industry within that of veterans that talk to each other? That's kind of this real estate, because that's could be part of your profiles, right? It's like, hey, I'm a veteran. I work with other veterans. That's kind of the thing, right? I'm curious, just asking.
Yeah, so I'm a part of the veteran network for veteran real estate agents. And so not every veteran real estate agent is a part of it. You have to sign up for it. but because I've worked with veterans before, it's kind of like like people say, hey, I work with Carolyn, she works with vets. You should use her as your agent. So a
Mm,
lot of it is word of mouth. So I've been very blessed in that category. But if you're not in that, then a lot of times you can sign up to be the go-to veteran real estate agent. You sign up with those platforms that push veteran real estate agents because we know how the veteran process works.
mm.
And veterans just sometimes feel comfortable working with other vets.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's awesome, right? But that is right. Part of, again, your profile is setting up. Hey, this is where I'm really good at and trying to go after. So
So I got a question.
yeah.
So I'm sitting here thinking, so outside of just the real estate, industry and all the other industries that matters to all of us. So your ideal customer profile, right? When it comes to what we do, Matt and Leanne, on access to capital,
Mhm.
right? Because access to capital, your ideal client is that client who is looking to access capital in any form or fashion, no matter what ethnicity, no matter what industry, no matter what that is. So I kind of like you to kind of expound on that a little bit, Matt, if that's not too far out of the realm.
So, and if I'm make sure I understood this, I mean, just from the capital standpoint, they they're looking to give capital to whomever, right? But
Well, looking to give capital is one thing, and looking for capital is the second thing, right? So you got all of these individual people, individual industry people who own a business. They're here to gain access to capital. So say, Rodney, so I get this question. So from especially from the investor and the investing public. So who's your ideal client? Anybody that's looking for capital, right? I mean, so what are you trying to do? Well, first, to get them in, I got to get them educated on the process of what you got to have to gain access to the capital, right? And then all the other ancillary things that comes after that too, right? So our ideal client is that individual person who him or her has a business that's trying to gain access to capital to grow his or her business.
well, you've hit it right there, Ronnie, is more of like, so we got two things, right? Is I have what I call my customer profile, but I also have my vendor profile,
Okay.
right? Who do I want to buy from and who do I want to get capital from? So you say, hey, Rodney, I'm coming to you, Rodney. I need capital. My wife owns 51% of my business, so female owned. Who's my, this is where I'm, how much I'm looking for. This is where I'm based. I give you all my stuff. So you
Yeah.
say, Matt, you know what? This investor is going to be the best one to line up with to get ready to present to because this is who they tend to send funds to, right? So
Mhm.
it's both sides. It's not just customer. You're now looking at your vendor side of saying, all right,
Correct.
my
Correct.
best vendors, right? So my background manufacturing, I always looked at vendors that met the same standards that I did, right? Quality, people, ship time, right? That, and we didn't get a cheap price, but we had quality, right? But it's the same thing when you're trying to get capital is, look, I mean, I've had to get capital before and I always looked at, all right, what bank am I going to align with correctly? Instead of just trying to go get everybody and getting denied, I try to find out who's best suited to a best match. Does
Right.
it make
No,
sense?
no, it does. And that's why I wanted to bring it up because it is both sides, right? Because
Yeah.
the vendor side is looking for access, right? And that's everybody and anybody who's 100% of people looking for capital. Then you got your customer side, okay? Who's my ideal customer?
Right.
Everybody who has money just trying to deploy it into deals, right? So that's the banks, that's the
Yeah.
private equity, that's VC, that's family offices, that's micro lenders. That's everybody on the ground that says, hey, I have money and I'm trying to, and if I don't deploy this money, I'm gonna lose this money, whether it's CDFI money, right? Government funding, grants, the whole nine. So that customer is everybody.
It is, but it's also like for Carolyn, right? Being part of the veteran, like there you might have some that like to fund, veterans or female owned or whatever, right? But you got to find out those fine details to match up the best, right? And that's really what's your profile. You can't just say, hey, yeah, I'm based in Dallas. I have, 300,000 in revenue. I've been in business for 5 years. This is what I do. It's all good, but they want to know, all right, let's get a little deeper than just that. Again, Rodney, that's your data.
Yeah,
Now we want insight, right? So what
Yeah.
is the insight? It's the other questions that are going to match up and make the best connection.
right. But see, it's such a, and I'm just bringing it up on the call now because it's such a fine line between that piece right there and matching up the money with the actual vendor.
Yeah.
Because if you're not officially the broker dealer, you can't do it that way. You know what I'm saying? So I got to open up a network of, people trying to invest in certain companies, and they need to figure out if this is the company I want to invest into, or if that's my, if that fits my profile of what I'm looking for, right? So we're working both sides at the same
Yeah,
time.
yours is, you have
Right.
both sides, but
Mhm.
I bring it up so that if anybody here on the call is saying, well, I'm looking for capital, which, maybe is, hey, well, maybe look at your customer profile on your own business and make sure you have things detailed to say, all right, I've got my ducks in a row. Here are my key points. Rodney, here's what and go through that. Go through your own internal profile of, if I need to get capital, what do I want to present, right?
Right. And we've done, and Matt, we try to do it. And I've talked to you quite a bit about all this stuff.
Yeah,
Sprague.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, and I'll pick on Carol and Dion. So they're real estate, agents, right? So I'm not trying to pick on y'all purposely. But at the end of the day, if they needed capital right now, right? And I know their profile, I know what they're looking for. We just addressed that. We found on the call what they're looking at, their right customer, blah, 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 right? But they still need a little money to bring on some more people, blah, blah, blah. Well, what happens is if I go out and talk to investing public about real estate people, right? It may not be a match for them, but I got to figure out, because I may bring an investor like, well, I like to invest in real estate, but don't know nothing about real estate, right? Now it's a bad match. You know what I'm saying?
It is, but like if Dion and Carolyn can't explain who they sell after, or their ideal customer profile, and they
Right.
just say, I've been in real estate, I'm in Charlotte, I've been 5 years. Okay, that's great, but why should, this is who I sell to, this is how long I've been here. Look, I go between Charlotte and Fayetteville. Okay, those are more details that get me a little more excited to lend, right? So it's not just that I'm in real estate and I do this, it's more like, hey, that my customers, and then when you say your ideal customer, they're like, okay, you're very focused and this is what you go after. You've got some, part of the business, right? There's more to it than just the profile. But when you talk to people and ask for money and looking for lending and partnering, they're going to ask you, well, what do you do and who's your customer? Instead of, and not, again, this is just vague, is not just say, hey, I'm in Atlanta and I'm in real estate. Well, okay, cool. What does that mean? Right.
Right. No, I wouldn't bring the dialogue up because, believe it or not, those questions come all the time. Hey, Penn, who is your ideal customer? And who's your vendor? Who are you trying to help? So I'm always having to answer that question, even with the Chase Banks of the world, the Wells Fargo of the world, CDFI, or the economic development groups. And I'm like, you're trying to deploy money into these groups right here that need access to what you have, right? I don't even think they really know what they're really doing.
No, and a lot of this is more just checking a box that, yes, this person has
There you
this,
go.
yes, this person has this, and they have this, right?
Right.
So, but again, you think about your business in two sides. I mean, I like what Carolyn says, right? She's got the referral side and who she tries to go after, because whoever like if someone from Charlotte moves to Dallas, hopefully, I don't know if I'm hoping Carolyn knows Dion, but maybe they refer each other, right? But she's putting her name out there, and that's kind of the process, right?
And we had that conversation, so you're right on point. I had the same conversation with Dion about the referral, and Carolyn already understands that. So the referral from Carolina to Dallas, and Dallas to Atlanta to Georgia, and blah blah. That's what it's all about, right?
Right, but also if you have the wrong referral, that could be bad. So it's again, it's not as we get into it, right? It's not just one. Can we have different profiles, right?
Yeah.
Is it by a role? Is it by the industry? Is it by the geography? These are all things we just talked about that I just forgot to hit next, Rodney, and that's kind of
No worries, man.
I think I can answer that, if I may. So when it comes to someone buying a single family residence, then when I just refer them to the agent in that area because they're the market expert. When
Yep.
it comes to commercial, as real estate agents and the other young lady on the line who's a real estate agent, we can work commercial for up to 6 months underneath another commercial company with our license without being necessarily licensed in that area. So then we can actually take care of our clients working up under another commercial firm if they'll allow us to hold our licenses there. So then we don't have to refer because they can hire us for that short period of time for commercial only, but not for residential.
See,
And-
Matt, we're going somewhere, Matt. We're going
yeah, I mean, well, and now we're taking it a whole nother level because now it's not just within the residential side. Now you have a whole commercial, right? So
Yeah.
again, it's think about your business and the ideal of who you want to go with. Look, if you want to go after everybody and you think you got it, great. You know, I did that in my mid-20s, and I think that's probably why I have gray hair now. So because I tried to sell to everybody. I thought everybody wants to be a customer, but sometimes that's not how it is. And all of a sudden you have to get very focused on what you're doing because, Rodney, on the flip side of that is I have a marketing budget that I want to get the best return on my investment.
Yep.
If I am targeting people, so Carolyn and Dion real estate, if you have ads or advertising on, you know, I don't know if you're using any Zillow or I don't think Redfin advertise, but Zillow, you know, I know you can advertise on, but you know, those dollars are dollars you hope to get it back on your investment. But if you don't know who you're going after, how do you know you're going to get the right return?
Yeah.
So
Exactly. So with that, again, working with real estate professionals in those particular states through a referral basis is the smarter way to go because I don't know the Texas market.
Yeah.
I don't know the Nevada or the California or New York or New Jersey market, but I will refer my clients to agents who do. And that way I still keep a hands on my client, working with the other agent. So that way my clients feel like I didn't just throw them away, but I'm still hands on, but I'm working with an expert in that market. And I explain that to them. Look, I'm licensed in North Carolina.
Mhm.
I'm not the best agent for you in these other markets where I'm not licensed. I don't know those markets. And they'll respect that
yeah,
because they understand that I'm not trying to do it all. I stay in my lane. And when it comes to commercial, because we will hold our license with another commercial business or real estate firm in that area, we're actually basically going from being a broker to like a provisional broker or not a broker in charge, depending on, you know, what your business is. So I will then go from being the broker in charge in North Carolina to just being a broker with another firm, say in Texas for commercial, and I can work with that client for up to 6 months under the tutelage of an expert in that particular state. So I'm
Yeah.
learning as well.
Well, and I love what you said, right? You stay in your lane and the expert. I can't tell you man, I have a handful of stories where I'm like, I wanted to sell and I told the client, yeah, I can make that for you. And it ended up being neon green and neon yellow. And this thing I had to stay up 12 hours every day to produce, right? And it's like, was it really worth it? But sometimes if we don't know what we want to go after and what we're offering, that will get us outside that into that third level tier of an ideal. Like, yeah, it's revenue. Let me rephrase. It might be a sale, a recorded revenue, but did you actually profit anything off of it? And sometimes when you get way outside of your ideal customer, it's a lot more work than you really think it is. And that's kind of getting set up. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's more just understanding sometimes you have to get outside that main point and build it. But again, there's different ways. And again, this is getting you to think about it's not just one level. It's, you know, hey, I know commercial, I know residential, I know this area, I know this area. You know, it's defining the areas that you want to focus on and who you want to go after. So
Matt,
Yeah.
sometimes the difficult customer in my industry is the one that challenges the most, and it pulled us out of our thinking. And if we could serve that customer, and there were a lot of them, then we became a better organization too. So we evolved our services to be able to meet their expectations, because that was the one that we wanted to go after in silence. But it required us to morph our product a little bit.
Well, a great example, right, is you kind of tried it and said, all right, my current system, I can't get my ideal customer, right? And you said, all right, to get my ideal customers over here, and I'm here, what'd you just say? You had to morph and evolve to get there, but you got there. But you understood my business is here with that client, but you had to get there, right? And that's understanding your business. Sometimes the systems you have may not get you there, but you're like, all right, what do I need to get there? That's a great example. I appreciate you sharing that, because sometimes, yeah, we got to change internally to get correct externally. So, so again, customer profile, go through these scenarios, write this stuff down, document it somewhere. Again, get out and see your clients. This is what we talk a lot, live observation, just the last piece, and kind of go through. See your client, take notes. This is a quick example I'll just share is like, and you can probably tell from the couch, this wasn't anytime recently. So, but this was a healthcare software company they were surveying their clients who was the nurse practitioners. And they're like, we don't like your software at all. Right. And they were like, why don't you like our software? We've gotten really good test results. So they ended up going out into the healthcare industry and figuring out what's going on. And they ended up finding out one thing. My wife's in the healthcare industry, and she's always taught, she's like, make eye contact with the patient at all times to create whatever you're about to deliver, right? Empathy when you're looking at somebody in the face, good, bad, whatever it is. So if you look at this scenario, what's the one main thing that's causing issues with the software?
Take away the eye contact.
Right. Where is the software at right now in this picture?
It's at the desk with the lady.
It's at 2.
Yeah, it's in the corner, right?
Right.
It's away from that eye contact. So eventually this healthcare software company ended up working with the industry to where, have you guys seen where they have the computers now that pull away from the desk or they're on sliding carts? So it wasn't actually the software. It was the environment it was being used. So they ended up working with healthcare industry. They weren't just one, but they helped start it. But they would have never known without getting out there and seeing your clients, right? Sometimes when you have to get out into the field and see what's going on. Why am I getting negative feedback? Why am I getting pushback? You know what? Get out there and see people and see things. So I know in the real estate market, you kind of have to. That's what it's all about. So, but when we talk about live observation, recording this and creating data points of bringing this back and put it in some type of system. So, Rodney, we got we good on a couple more minutes, maybe 5 more minutes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just go through it. I mean, again, there's 3 phases of insight: the data collection, insight, and the actions you need to take, right? So, Leanne has a copy. Rodney, I'll get her and Sonia to connect. So if anybody needs a copy of this for some of the questions, but this is review your data. What do you have? What are you currently collecting? Is it quantitative or qualitative? Look at these things at your data and what you're collecting. What kind of things are you? And again, this is the data collection part, right? And then as we get into it, how do you generate insights? It's not easy. You got to dedicate some time. And I always tell, if you're a one-man person, get a friend or somebody to look at your insights and help you out. Because a lot of the times your mind's skewed because it's your own business and maybe you are the business. And so when you look at data, you're like, no, that's not right. I know who I am. All right. Well, get somebody else to look at it, help you out, bring in another great mind. Right. I was like, disregard all assumptions. Again, what I just said. Leanne and I laugh sometimes because we get proven wrong sometimes. Like, I thought I knew it, but no, I got proven wrong there. So don't assume that you know all the clients. and know the patterns. What are the things? What are the buying habits? What are the things they're looking after? And again, then take action, define the action, put somebody on it. How do you measure it? The big thing is we collect all this stuff and we do things and we don't ever measure where we are. What metrics are we? If it's, logistics, what do we want to do? What's our revenue, or how much do we want to be on time? Real estate, what do we want to sell each month? Where do we want to be? Measure it. How do we hold ourselves accountable? So there's a couple different things, but again, we're going to lead into the journey, right? And the first part is, how do you build the data part? To understand your journey, you got to understand what information you're collecting and who you're trying to sell to. So again, these are some of the points that we're going to send out, the patterns. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What do you know as your product? What problems are you trying to solve? So, we've kind of talked about this. I kind of reversed it because I wanted to get some more talking early on. And so, these are the questions we normally ask at the end of this section is like, hey, does anybody want to share? We've talked about ideal customer, but what information do you collect? How do you collect information? How often do you collect it? Because I always joke here, because be different than the person that sends a survey at the end of the year asking how we did for the year. A lot of people do that. A lot of people we meet, I usually ask that question. They say, yeah, I send a survey at the end of the year just asking how we do. And that's our data point, right? So, so I open it up, and because my last question, I'll go to a couple tips here. I'm at the end, but I saw Dean and Victoria. I apologize, I didn't call on you. Any questions or comments, insights on our insights piece? This is really the part that allows you to start making executive decisions that builds to your operations of how do I act. But Carolyn and Dion, I really appreciate kind of picking on you a little bit. So, because it was good. It was a good experience there, kind of going. So, but anybody else, any insight here?
Hi, Matt. It's Sonia. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So as Rodney said, our ideal customer profile is, of course, everybody who needs access to capital. And the kind of information that we collect, because we have two different areas for analytics and tracking the reports and seeing the trends as far as like how many people are signed in, how long they're signed in, what areas that they're looking at and focusing on. We can also collect it like you have previously on one of the slides by industry. We do have those kind of matrix that we can look at. And then we collect this information daily. So it's around the clock analytics. So if anyone can get any kind of analytic report, you can do a deep dive into this information to kind of see what is working and what's not working for your customer base.
But Sonia, you bring up a good point, just the analytics piece to it, because a lot of times we're so busy that we forget to take the time to really dive into those reports, right? And truly understanding, because like you said, what are the trends? What are the industries? How long are you taking that you sit somewhere and look at some things? The interesting thing is, we're going to talk about it later, but when you collect all this data, where does it live? Dave, do you have a CRM? Do you have a Google Doc? Do you have an Excel file?
Yeah.
What do you, Dave?
Rhetorical. Well, you definitely have the CRMs. You have these disparate data junctures, that you have to sometimes need to unify. But typically, I've used business intelligence products such as Tableau and Power BI, things of that nature to help drive some of the reporting, the key metrics that we have.
No, and I'm glad you said that, because there are some tools out there that really will help you versus just being on yourself. So you want to share? I know Tableau. So you want to share with the group again what you use to help with the business analytics, so that anybody wants to write it down.
Yeah, from what I understand, there's a lot of nice business intelligence products out there. Usually what I've deployed in my career have been either the you know, the top three that I've seen that I've used are Click, Tableau, and Power BI. Power BI tends to be, it's a Microsoft product, tends to be the one that's getting a lot of usage right now. And the thing about it, if you're going to usually have like a data artisan that's bringing in your database, and then at that point it becomes it becomes a little easier to start building your dashboards and your key metrics that you look at. So that's usually what I've used, Matt. I hope that answers your question.
And Matt,
No,
those are excellent. Those are excellent products that Dave just mentioned. Power BI is one that I use every day. It's probably the top one that I would consider too.
Yeah, it also has its own data lakes inside of it, which makes it a little easier versus, you know, Tableau. Tableau is usually more visually appealing and does a little bit more on, you know, some of the predictive analytics. Alteryx combined with Tableau is very nice. The problem with it is it's costly, you know, so you're talking six figures to put those two together.
yeah, if you have 6 figures to invest, go for it. But yeah, you know, but no, that's good, because I mean, there's a lot of tools out there, and again, I always like to reach out to the group for recommendations to, hey, what do you know, what have you used? Because again, data analytics, and if if you're by yourself or need help, I'll recommend, you know, hey, if you need some contractors, you know, there's a website called Upwork. If you ever need somebody to help you on a one-time thing to build, you know, there's contractors out there that will help you set things up for a one-time fee. So if you're like, hey, Matt, I can't do it, that's all on me. Look, there are people out there that can help you. I've been there where I've had 5 people in my business and had 100. I mean, you tend to learn, you know, what you can do on your own, what you think you can do on your own, and then realize I need somebody else to really help me. So I laugh because Leanne knows there are some things I've tried to do on my own, and I'm like, all right, Leanne, I need your help on this. So, but there are things. So Dave, I appreciate you sharing that. The last little thing is, we talk about, if you're using surveys, use pulse surveys, do quick check-ins, right? Limit your questions. Dave, we were talking about questions, right? If you serve so I think I asked that last time, but if you've taken a 30-question survey and actually finished it, I'm proud of you, because not many people do it, right? So limit the amount of questions. Ask the right questions. The thing too is, nobody replies to surveys, positive or negative. A lot of people automatically go after negative. You can get a lot of insight if you just reply to somebody's feedback, because they'll most of the time open up a conversation with you, and you will learn a lot about your business in areas that are going really well, or where you may need to improve it. So those are my tips. Focus on the question you're asking, and then reply to what they say. Because, man, there's a lot of times I've given somebody survey feedback and I don't hear anything, and it's like, all right, well, I probably won't fill out another survey for you. So obviously we dove into a lot. If there are questions, you know, we appreciate you. Leanne will send out the deck, but I'll open it up. I think we've talked a lot here. Hopefully we got all the chats, but
Yes, we're good on the chats.
Carolyn,
There's been a lot of chats, so it's good.
Good. I appreciate your time tonight. Rodney, thank you again for having us on. I know it's, again, people don't get a lot excited about talking about data and insight and analytics.
Right.
It's important for your business. So
No, we know it's important for every business, and we're definitely happy, Matt, you and Leanna here. You know, and also through the series, we just keep trying to plug everybody in and get this out to everybody who's in the community, and continue, you know, to scale this into so many other businesses that need, you know, this type of toolage, right? And knowledge, because, you know, it's a struggle really trying to just understand where you need to take, you know, your business to, and these tools are definitely warranted. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, Leanne. Thanks, PN family. for joining tonight. I know we went over time, so no problem. It was good. Hope the weather holds up.
Oh,
You guys don't get rained out.
if we're on this right now, we're doing great, Rodney.
I think Carolyn got kicked out a couple times. The weather's bad in Charlotte. So I think
Yeah.
she got kicked out a couple times.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and Rodney, just remember, Leanne and I are here. If there was something somebody wanted to ask, or Sonia, if somebody pings you, look, Leanne and I here to help people. We talk a lot. This is a people world, right?
Oh, yeah,
we're here to
absolutely.
help. If you got an idea and say, hey, Matt, I really wanted to ask this, but I wasn't ready to in front of the group, ping us. Well, I'm happy to have a quick 10, 15-minute conversation and help. So
yeah, I think as everybody started to chime in, more people have started to be a little bit open about asking questions. If they know me, it's no, you shouldn't be afraid of anything. Just ask, right? So anyway, I want everybody to continue to be blessed. Have a great night. Matt, thanks again. Thanks, Leanne. Thanks, team.
Sure.
And I guess we see you guys in another, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right,
Day
guys.
beyond there. That's when we're going to talk about our customer journey and value stream. So that's it.
Yeah,
So
I'm looking
Okay.
forward to it.
all
All
right.
right, Dave.
Good.
All right, everybody. Have a
See
good
y'all.
night.
Bye.
Thanks.